Jenny-Jaymes and my sidekick, Christian Cano, partner in crime, is coming up next.
Hey everyone, I'm Jen's sidekick. Welcome to Two Queers in a Truck. Hi y'all.
See you soon. Good morning, everybody. It is the first week of September, the exact date. We're talking, it is going to be September 6th when you're seeing this drop for the first time. So
happy football season.
Yeah, we're in football season. It's, September is considered the first month of fall, which it technically is still mostly summer. For certain parts of the country, we're definitely in hurricane season. As everybody's probably known by now, and when we're recording this, of course, this is always a week before we actually drop the show, so this isn't really newsworthy probably anymore. But it's obviously there's the hurricane going on in Florida today. It just made landfall. So by the time this will be week-old news by the time that you're hearing this, but obviously it was a pretty powerful storm when it hit the coastline, and I'm sure we'll be talking about it all this weekend. I'm sure it'll be in the news cycle even when you see this.
It was like I think they said, Jen, it was for that area, they called that, I think I read, I don't know this, but I sound like I know what I'm talking about. The Big Bend area of Florida, which is that upper area. This is the biggest hurricane in 125 years that hit them. So it's a lot further north than the big penis-shaped state that Florida is. That's right.
It's actually up towards the taint and the testicles, but in case people don't, or sometimes people call that area the gooch.
That's right. It's the gooch.
But it's a scary thing. Obviously, Florida is spending a lot of time preparing for it, because we knew that we've been talking about this hurricane for a week, and hopefully people sought shelter, and if they were able to, I know the main part of the storm surge could be as high as 9 feet of water. So we're probably going to see quite a bit of devastation. And it's something, when you live in areas like that, you expect in some time, if you live there long enough, you're going to live through a hurricane.
Plus climate change, and the water is so unusually warm there. It's just it's crazy.
It's I guess, not to make a joke of it, but living near a coast, near an ocean that's hurricane prone, probably isn't the selling point that it used to be. And it's only making Florida's already almost impossible insurance rates.
Can you imagine?
Insurance and property and casualty. They were already in a devastated state for some different reasons. And this is not going to help. It's going to be crazy there. And Florida's anti-business climate right now, with their current fascist governor and the massive business failures he's made, is only going to compound this. Election, and I don't want to make this political, but I kind of do.
Yeah.
Quit voting for dickheads.
Yeah.
Quit voting for dickheads that will compound problems over years. And by the time that you elect a common sense Democrat to come in and clean up the fucking mess that these Republicans make, like Abbott, like DeSantis, that I hear people bitch living in those states, and I'm going, well, quit electing fascists, quit electing formative fucking idiots. And I can't stress that anymore. And we're not even into the first topic yet, and I'm already
that's right.
already railing on the Republicans. But speaking of dickheads, dickhead Don Jr., the grift is so real with these people. He went on Twitter this past week and was bitching about people making money off merch using his dad's mugshot. And is saying, if you really want to, this is why I know that he's coked up and disconnected with the world, is because his logic is that if you're going to pay for Trump's image, you should be just buying their merch. And he's upset. I'm going, boo-boo. People buying your dad's mugshot are making fun of your dad. They're not wanting to get elected or off the hook and pay for your lawyer's fees. These aren't the same. These aren't sheeple. These aren't MAGAs that are buying this shit. No MAGA is going to buy a mug, a little coffee mug with his mugshot on it.
Yes,
saying, my ass got arrested, and or MAGA.
Yeah, you're right. We're doing it to make fun of him.
Yes. And so he's thinking that they should be buying the Trump bucks and the NFTs of him looking like Superman. And I'm like, oh, no. You're confused and probably high. And you jump onto the Google machine making your coked out videos. But I'm like, dude, that just tells you, A, how stupid Don Jr. is, and two, just how disconnected and greedy they are. I'm like, people have paid hundreds of millions of dollars to Trump this year. They've had so many MAGAs donate, and so many of their donor base donate. There's Republican state funds that are almost empty of money. The Republicans.
Hey, Jenny, there was a report, I think, with his last filing, which was end of July, which, it comes out like in August, but the deadline is July 31st, that 52 cents of every dollar donated to Trump goes to his legal fees.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? So, it's a free market. If you want to give him your money, but, I forgot where I heard it, but I think it was one of the presidential candidates said, what kind of the Trump supporter is not only delusional and disconnected, but they're actually helping a person who says he doesn't need money and he's a billionaire. Which shows he really doesn't. He's running for office. He needs this money because that's the only way he can afford all his attorneys.
Yeah, but also, too, Trump has always run on the OP principle. Or OPP principle, other people's, or OPM, other people's money. He is never, ever self-financed anything. And his grift is, I'll sell these Trump steaks, I'll sell these Trump university seats, I'll sell. Yeah. I mean, he would sell somebody's kidneys if that left him. Like he would put a personal seat license on people's organs if he could. And this guy has. I mean, he put his baby mama, ex-wife, buried her in an unmarked grave in a New Jersey fucking golf resort. And there's no telling what's in that casket, evidence-wise. Yeah. Like, in one of his court deals, it'd be crazy if they have to zoom and find out what's in that casket. I mean, we're not talking about. And yeah, the reason the other Republican candidates for president are screaming is, one, they can't raise any money like he's raising. He is stoking the Republican base. And I'm talking about the regular rake and file. I'll send in 5, 10, 15, my life savings. Like, I don't give a shit. There's people out taking second mortgages on their trailer park and land to just like he's. I've put him in more of the category of televangelist.
Yeah, yeah.
Like he doesn't
exactly. He's like the modern.
Always is needing a rainy day fund.
Yes.
And if you listen to Joel Osteen or the late Pat Robertson, may he rest in peace, those type of grifters, he is taken on a televangelist cult idea. It's not a recent thing. I mean, he began this MAGA thing as a movement. He doesn't care about the Republican Party, but unfortunately, the Republican Party that's made of really greedy, stupid white people is fell for the grift. And I'm talking about the leadership side of the voter and embrace this fascist because they're like, this is the only way we can push back. We're in a lost cause, and we've got a generational problem. And Trump was their Hail Mary. And so now, because you, just like Ross Perot said, when you hear that big old sucking sound and all of our money's gone because of NAFTA and General Motors, you just hear that great sucking sound that George Bush has caused. And that's why you need to vote for me for president, even though I'm crazy as fuck. And so president, but he wasn't completely wrong. And he just was batshit crazy and just a little goofy. And unfortunately, he appointed a vice presidential candidate that didn't have all his marbles. It was over there buttering to himself, which was a whole Saturday Night Live skit in itself. The best presidential debates ever in history were the 92 debates. I mean, with Clinton, Papa Bush, it was old and tired.
Especially when they did it on Saturday Night Live.
Oh, my God. The best presidential candidate election imitations ever were the 92. You will never, it's not been topped since then. Even with Trump's, imitation with what's his face, still not as good. Because you had a literally three ring circus for president in 92. And three characters. Crooked ass Papa Bush. You had Ross Perot, the little short guy that's just screaming at the top of his lungs. And you had Bill Clinton, the younger of the three candidates from Arkansas, and his little speech patterns. He's a very good speaker, and it just was too much fun. Best political race I've ever seen in my lifetime. And just watching how brilliant Clinton was. I mean, because we're talking about Clinton in his heyday. He like when he was really slick Willie, really good at what he did. And not to mention probably one of the better presidents we've had in our lifetime as well, for a lot of reasons. But just the fucking debates. It's just, I can go back and watch them now and still fucking just, you're laughing so hard because they literally were meant to be made fun of. Because you had such three characters, three men up there that are just the epitome of goofiness. But anyway, topic number 2. This is the anniversary week, or this last week was the anniversary month of the tan suit scandal with Obama, and the suit that rocked the Western world as we know it, prompting Republicans to talk about investigations into Obama and how unpresidential this was. Now, keeping in mind, Ronald Reagan wore a tan suit all the time. It was kind of a Western-looking suit, especially when he was in the West Coast White House. And he was out riding horses, and I don't know what else he was doing out there. But a lot of times when he held press conferences, he wore that tan suit out there, and there was many times he wore the tan suit and some of the more formal, informal things, like in the East Wing when he was sitting in the chairs and he was meeting with different dignitaries and stuff like that, he kind of dressed, he used the tan suit to look more casual but still be in a suit and a tie and all that. And it's funny how people forget it because a black man wears a tan suit, or they, oh, he's disrespectful to the office. I'm like, but you gave Reagan a pass in the 80s when tan suits weren't necessarily the coolest thing in the world. Reagan looked like something from a 1955, sitcom. But you gave old Roddy Reagan the pass, and it just says how much the media was so biased against Obama for being black, and just how obvious our country's how racist it is. That man served for 8 years as president, no scandals. His kids never got in scandals. His wife didn't get in scandals. He wasn't selling us out to the Saudis or the Russians or anything like that. Inherited an absolute mess from a very failed president before him that had our economy, had us in the middle of a two-front war, had the world as that we're borrowing money left and right to fight a war for profits. We spent $8 trillion we'll never get back that we're still paying debt on right now. Our debt, all of our debt comes from military spending, war spending. And because we still were operating a government on top of all that. And if we didn't overspend on military in the last 30 years, and especially since Clinton got out of office when he balanced the budget and got our military right-sized, we literally wouldn't have hardly any debt. But that's what started our spiral. It also screwed our economy.
Yeah.
That debt, the war, the war was, I don't care what anybody says, the war had a lot to do with our money supply getting tight, being able not to grow our way into positivity. And we started losing growth. I think things caught up. Thought things caught up and the good times stopped. Anyway, we're up against our first break. We already had 2 sections already, and we'll come back with some more 2 queers in a truck. Hey, everybody, you can catch us on your favorite audio podcast platform, Spotify, and all Apple Store, the Google machine, and whoever else does podcasts. We're on there. We broke in, and we're staying. So enjoy the 2 queers in the truck on your favorite audio podcast platform. Thanks for listening or watching. Bye-bye. Happy time. We are back, but I've been kind of thinking a lot about the 1990s and how cool of a decade it was, and just, the time of my youth, of my 20s, of our club culture for our generation. Many of us were club kids. I know you probably frequented many a bar in the greater Dallas-Fort Worth area that era, and many others in the 1990s, because that was our heyday. Yep. That's when we got into our 20s and
that's right.
And even early 30s, and we were that was our time. Just like it's now, it's 2 generations later. The club kids are now the baby Z's, and they're getting of age, like my kids, my 2 youngest, and they're getting into the clubs and they're doing the things that we did. Hopefully not as bad, but I don't want to know either. And but a lot of the people associate with in local politics, not office holders, but people involved in organizing, are Generation Z, and many of them, when they go out to specific places. But it's kind of interesting to think about that. That's what I was doing in the 1990s.
Yeah.
When all this, and you were too. We're the same age, and so
that's right.
It's just interesting. It's interesting to hear them talk. It's interesting to see what qualifies as a night out now, and how some things are exactly the same as they were in the 1990s, and how some things are different. And I may do a segment on that someday. But anyway, Killer Kyle Rottenhouse is, I guess, he must be needing to grift some more money. He's probably already burned through the millions of dollars he got sent, plus his legal fees. Is trying to cry again and get people. He wants to get in the media to continue his grift, like all the right wing nut jobs are, but wants to move on. And see, to me, if you're willing to move on, why would you try to get in the news cycle again and make yourself relevant again? And people aren't having it. They're messaging him and talking to him on Twitter like, "Hey, Killer Kyle, it's time for you to just disappear." And I'm cleaning that up. A lot of people are saying way worse. And he should be in prison. He murdered 2 people. And because of a grifter, Trump judge, and a mishandling of the case by the prosecutor, he was charged with the wrong charge and was able to beat it because they made sure the fix was on before the trial even began. And the judge threw out so many things for the prosecution, wink, wink. And typical of white privilege, typical they wouldn't make him a poster child for acceptable violence. These guys.
He's being sued now. That's the reason he needs the money. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's been, I think, wrongful death suit by one of the family members.
As
from one of the guys that he killed. Yeah.
He's a murderer.
He's trying to play the victim now. He's like, I can't go anywhere. Can't go anywhere without people making fun of me, and I need security. And
hey, dipshit, don't show up to a fucking riot and a protest with a fucking gun and then try to claim self-defense. It wasn't fucking self-defense. If you didn't go there with a gun, you wouldn't shot anybody.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's it. Mm-hmm. And if you're not mature enough, which he was 17 at the time, mm-hmm. and he had the emotional maturity of 11 and 12-year-old, mm-hmm. I don't feel sorry for you. Here's the thing. This dipshit, if he's old enough to carry a gun and use it in quote unquote self-defense, maybe you don't go there. Maybe you just don't go into there was no reason. He's not defending his property. He doesn't have any fucking property. He's a broke dick kid. And he's a stupid dipshit. And he murdered 2 people. And he murdered them. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't self-defense. He wasn't defending. He wasn't standing his ground. He shows up to something that had nothing to do with him, sticking his nose where it doesn't belong, typical of a conservative. And because he was a violent kid. He was a bully, still is a bully. He's a dipshit. There's videos of him punching girls. This guy's not a good guy. He should be in prison. He should be in prison.
I think every rational person knows something's not going to end well with him.
No.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, if something bad can happen to somebody, I'm okay with it happening to him. Because they fostered and fomented a culture of violence, gun violence. And these pieces of shit MAGA Republicans have used this guy as a dipshit excuse for violence, especially against the LGBT community. Fuck them. Mm-hmm. Fuck Kyle. I have 0 fucks to give when it comes to a piece of shit like that. Like, I'm not going to pull any punches and try to be devil's advocate on somebody that's absolutely a waste of the chemicals it takes to make up his body. Like, he's not even worth $10 of chemicals. This guy's a horrible human being that ended 2 lives. I don't give a shit what those people did. Because what they said, it was blah, 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 or whatever was a criminal. But he didn't know that. It's still not a reason to execute somebody on the street.
Exactly. Yeah.
The moment we start, just like that goes back to George Floyd, he had a history of drug use. Still doesn't give the police the authority to execute him on the street. Doesn't give them that power. You don't want to give the police the power to kill or harm. You never want to go down that road. You're in some serious Nazi choppy waters right there. Like the moment you give any kind of armed group the discretion to kill civilians, I don't care if it's a backyard gravy seals, fat ass militia, a bunch of closeted gay men and the Proud Boys, whatever nut job scenario these MAGAs and these incel, latent homosexuals want to dream up. The crazy thing is, don't justify violence. You don't want to go there, because now you're seeing shootings everywhere and we can't get a lid on it. And it's going to end up taking away the one thing that they hold precious, which is their cock-shaped guns. And there's going to eventually just be a gun ban. We're eventually just going to have to seize guns because they don't have enough common sense of a fucking amoeba and enough brain cells to understand, hey, maybe we should regulate guns. I don't know. It's a consumer product. We've never done that before. But anyway, speaking of morons, MAGA attorney James Saunder got convicted of voter fraud.
I saw that. Yeah.
Voted in 2 different states. We definitely did the vote early, vote often technique. The party of claiming voter fraud, all the little MAGA chicken littles that always say the sky is falling, Carrie Lake. Carrie Lake is still trying to convince people that she's the governor of Arizona. And I think she even called herself the governor of Arizona. And it's so funny every time that one of these voter fraud cases happen and another Republican gets convicted, how you just don't even hear about it. You'd have to search really hard to see that Fox even covered that story. And they won't. They don't want to talk about the real.
Yeah, they don't cover that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Voter fraud does happen, but just not on a large scale. There's usually 100, 150 cases a year. It's either a person that got let out of prison and because of whatever, they misunderstood the deal, and some people have gotten convicted of voter fraud because they were still a disenfranchised voter because they lost their voting rights and they haven't been reinstated yet.
Yeah.
And it's more of they've only voted once, but they voted when they weren't supposed to. Now, how they can register to vote and be a felon and they're not blocked out of the system, I don't understand that. That seems like you're setting people up to fail.
Yeah.
Kind of bizarre because felonies are of public record or in the governmental system, the same system where you register to vote. So it seems like they're trying to set some people up just to send them back to prison. Can't imagine why. Typically, it's going to be a person of color. Me thinks it's just another way of white Republicans disenfranchising as many voters as they can. And the other way is the Republican way, which is either you go door to door, like what happened here in North Carolina, and picking in mail-up ballots as a special service, and then sending in changed, altered ballots for Republican candidates. Amazing. And all those other ones, the real ones, were Democrat registered voters. So, but anyway, or jackasses using dead wives voter registration because they can't vote themselves, or the wife of a local Republican candidate going in and getting
voting for him.
And that dude finished like a 3rd or 5th or something like that.
Yeah. I think
that was crazy.
Yeah. You know what, Jenny? I actually believe that, of course, everyone should only be able to vote once. That's just logical.
That's a big one.
Other than that, every citizen should be able to vote. even if you're in jail, even if you're a felon. Because even if you're in jail, you still should have a say on how money is spent.
100%.
So, I think every felon should be able to vote. I think every citizen would be able to vote. Even if you're convicted of a felon, you should still be able to vote. You just have to vote from jail.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that guarantees 100% participation for one thing.
Exactly. So that way, the only fraud would be if you voted more than once.
Yeah.
Which would be easy to calculate because
as long as you're a citizen, you're above 18, and you're still breathing.
Yeah.
You should be able to vote. But we'll be right back with some more Two Queers in a Truck.
Hey, everyone. Thank you so much for watching us on Two Queers in a Truck. Don't forget, you can watch us anytime at your leisure on our video podcast platforms like Facebook and YouTube. But you can also listen to us, either this show or any of our past shows, on our audio podcast platforms like Apple, Amazon, Google, Spotify, and all of the other ones. So once again, thank you for watching Two Queers in a Truck. I hope you enjoy our show.
And we are back. I 1,000% agree, and I've said this a million times. When you have the discretion to take people off the voter rolls, like this is how Republicans are. The major source of voter suppression is taking people off voting rolls in multiple different ways. The Republicans have been very sneaky about this, and it's happened a lot in amazingly red states: Ohio, Texas, Georgia, and not just with felons. They've created laws in the last decade or so where if you don't vote a certain amount of times in a row,
you get dropped
off the rolls. Nobody should ever be taken off until the Social Security office sends the voter registration office a notice saying they're dead.
Yeah.
Everybody in America that's a citizen that turns 18 should be automatically registered. Voter registration shouldn't even be an option.
Yep. You're registered to vote. And if you vote, you vote. You don't, you vote. I agree with you. That Texas, it's been that way probably since after Ann Richards. If you miss, I think, 2 elections, then or if you don't vote in at least the past 2 elections or something like that, I don't know exactly, that you get thrown off and you have to re-register. So that they try to make people jump off.
Yeah, well, they take them off.
Yes, that's right.
In 2016, I think they were in Texas. They mysteriously removed them right before the election.
Yeah.
And so instead of purging, like in the 2012 election, they purged the list in 2013, for example. Now, they purged the voter list in 2016. In the fall of 2016, about 30 days before the general election started, early voting started, mysteriously. Like 250,000 people. And when you remove 250,000 people off the voter rolls, and mysteriously the majority of them every time are Democrats.
Yeah.
Just poof. And Georgia did the same thing. They do it all the time. They do it when it's convenient for them. And it is the best way to limit voting suppression is to automatically register everybody and have no reason other than death.
Yeah.
Should nobody be removed. And it'll change a lot of things with voting. It's the ultimate guarantee of voting rights, first of all.
Yeah.
There is no shadow of a doubt that people that should be voting will vote if they don't have to go through the process of registering. Nobody should have to register.
Yeah.
U.S. government knows every citizen. We got little supercomputers and undisclosed locations that track all that shit. Social Security office computer is insanely secure and insanely accurate, and it's our system.
As a matter of fact, Jenny, you know what? If they want to put some type of, whatever they want to do, then we can make a compromise and we can say, okay, if you don't want everyone to register to vote, because that's really what they don't want, then let's do this. Everyone who files taxes is automatically allowed to vote.
Mhm.
Because everyone has to file taxes every year.
Yeah.
The only people that aren't going to file taxes are the people that are trying to cheat the IRS, and those are usually Republicans.
Yeah.
So everyone who files taxes would automatically, when you file your taxes every year, the system automatically checks it, and you can vote the next year. So let's that would, to me, that would be a compromise, because even if you're in prison, you have to file taxes, or someone does on your behalf. I guess I don't know how that works, but right? I mean, I assume I don't know how that works.
I don't know. Yeah. That's actually a curious question. How do you?
Well, Google that while you're on your next topic or something.
Yeah, that's a fascinating question within a question. Is why? I mean, I know why Republicans don't want felons and people incarcerated voting, because probably the majority of them are black people. They want as few black people voting as humanly possible, and they've set up a mass incarceration justice system that's just a pipeline. And mysteriously, the majority of them that don't get plea bargain deals keeping them out of prison tend to be black people. But they're 13% of the population, and they're 85-90% of the prison population.
Yeah.
The black population in our prison system is larger than the Latino and white population combined. Out of the almost 2 million people living in incarceration right now, the numbers, out of 100,000 people, every 100,000 residents in the United States, 2,700 of them are black Americans living in prison right now.
So here we go. Incarcerated people, like anyone else, have to file tax returns if they have enough income, because they work in prison. They get paid while they're working in there. If they don't, they have 3 years to file taxes if they were in prison. So,
which really brings up a question. We've already covered one of the topics. We've turned this into a topic, but it's really an interesting topic in itself, the prison culture of this prison society, because we've got more people in prison than people that live in Mecklenburg County.
Yeah.
I mean, it's nationwide, but it's a big portion of our population. If it was a city itself, it'd be a city as large.
It'd be a top 10 city.
Yeah, it'd be one of the biggest cities in the United States if we put everybody in a prison city in the United States with some of the, I don't know, made them live in South Dakota or something like that.
Yeah,
and just puts this giant federal state conglomerate prison city. It'd be a massive fucking city.
Yeah.
And that's what's wrong with the prison system is you have recidivism at about 70%. Once you get into the prison system, you return at about a 70% rate. I think it's 75. And then once you become what they call a 3-time loser, you almost always get time extended for repeat offenses. Everything gets amped up to where the majority of the time when you get that third conviction is it's usually you're getting 20 years to life, no matter what the charge is. And so when you do these little hiccups, like that one lady of color in Texas that got 5 years because she was a former incarcerated person. She was led to believe she was legal. She went and voted and got 5 fucking years. 5 years in prison for that. For voting. Yeah. And didn't try to vote twice, didn't use somebody else's deal. 5 years because she was misinformed by her attorney. Nothing happened to the attorney, but she got 5 years. And which is wild because I see child molester after child molester, typically a pastor, typically a Republican, get fucking probation for sex abuse against minors. Happens all the time. Very few of them get time. And if they do, it's like 2 or 3 years. This woman made the mistake of being misinformed. It was 5 years hard time. It's insane for voting. We bitch about people not voting, and we're like, well, if I saw that happen to somebody, I'm not sure I'd want to vote in a system like that. And that's how they create voter suppression.
Yeah.
It's magical why so many people don't want to vote. If you make it so fucking hard to even register to vote, not to mention the vote, or you got lines that are 12 and 13 hours long, who wants to stand in a line to do your duty? In this age of Google machines, here's the bottom line. There's no reason why we can't vote electronically.
Yeah.
And y'all can, I've heard some pretty rational human beings. What it comes down to is they do not want people voting in mass. They do not want 270 million Americans voting, which is all the adults in the United States. And they've found every way possible to limit who can register and who can vote. In Texas alone, there's 11 million people that did not vote in the 2022 election. Only 9 million did vote.
Yeah.
More people didn't participate. Arguably one of the most important elections in Texas history. And so you allowed a fascist idiot retain his office. And you wonder why they have the problems they have is because he's rubber stamped in office no matter how bad he fucks up. There's no reason that lieutenant governor and governor should have kept their jobs. In a reasonable system where everybody's participating, it wouldn't have. They'd have lost in a landslide to Beto. But when you got it, people suppress. Democrats have got it wrong because they don't want to admit that they've allowed voter suppression on a universal level. We've got to stop voter suppression. We don't need to get people out to vote because they ain't going to go out to vote. If you ain't registered, or even if you're registered and just haven't shown up in years, that's a feature of the system of voter suppression. It's not a bug. It's not an accident. Our voter registration system and our system in general is so outdated and stupid. You know, most countries, major countries in Europe, is compulsory, mandatory voting.
Yeah.
You live here, you pay taxes here, you get your ass to the polls. We'll pay you to do so. We'll do whatever we need to do. But with these little Google machines that just about every American, adult American, has a smartphone or access to the internet.
Yeah.
And for the ones that don't, we give them a mail-in ballot.
Yeah.
There's no reason to have voting polls. This isn't 1796. And we're getting out little quill feather pens, checking boxes.
Yeah.
This isn't the ye old voting system. We literally have sent probes out of our solar system. And this really gives me the red ass. And this is both parties' fault. We motherfucking need to secure our fucking supply chain of voting. You talk about supply chain problems. The biggest supply chain we have for democracy problem is our outdated bullshit systems to allow for indiscretions in voting. And when we had both the Senate and the House for those 2 years, this should have been one of the top 10 priorities. And the Democrats slept on this on purpose. It should have been unfilibusterable, voting right, get our system right, pass the system to move us to an electronic voting system and automatic voter registration. No exceptions, no pass-go. Don't collect $200. 18 to 80, blind, cripple, or crazy. Everybody gets the vote. 100% mandatory voting, 100% voter registration, 100% participation, no matter where the fuck you're sitting. This ends all this bullshit. You won't have to worry about gerrymandering. You won't have to worry about nothing. If you got the 270, 280 million adult Americans to vote, you won't have to worry about nothing.
Well, this is one of those things, Jenny. I know we're completely out of time, but I was thinking about this yesterday. This is one of those things that you and I talk about, and I always say a state like Minnesota, one of the blue states, Colorado, even Massachusetts, they need to call the bluff of the red states and say, you want a constitutional convention? Let's have one. Because these are the things that we're going to put on the ballot in every state. We're going to get rid of the states' rights to vote, which means it's now a federal right. So we're going to change the Constitution. We're going to we're going to amend the number 2, the militia Constitution, and so and abortion, and we're going to add abortion. And then we're going to let so if you want a constitutional convention, let's have one. These are the 3 things we're going to put on the vote on the constitutional convention. And every state, let's see if we can ratify it. And because we have some wishes too, and so and you always have these red states. We're going to do a constitutional convention, to get rid of marriage equality, or this is what? Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's put it on the ballot.
Let's go to a straight line vote.
Yep.
Up, down, 51% rules.
Exactly.
And let every American, and I'm talking about every fucking American, has to vote in this. 100% participation. And you vote for 2 sets of constitutions. The fascist one and the real American democracy one. And I bet you what, it'll be pucker level number 12 for the Republicans, realizing when everybody gets to participate, the Republican Party at that point disappears as we know it.
Exactly.
That's their biggest fear, especially when 100% of black and brown people are voting.
And then all the young people voting now.
It's all over.
Exactly.
They'll be hugging their conch-shaped pillows and crying, and their little gun binkies, and they will be stomping their little feetsies, going, "I'm mad about this." I'm going, "Yeah, that's right. Your day's over, Bubba." And that's when we we'll restore democracy, or actually have democracy for the first time, is when we have a democracy. And not some kind of screwy theological fascist bullshit government like we have now. And then the next thing we do is we put term limits on fucking all judges. And I'm talking about all judges. There ain't a single judge that needs to be in for life. There ain't no fucking reason to put somebody in a position to change our lives so bad that they're allowed on a whim once they get a majority to just rewrite laws. Either I don't want anybody up there that long. I don't want. If
we make neurosurgeons, and brain surgeons and surgeons retire at a certain age, we got to make judges retire at a certain age.
And pilots.
Exactly.
You don't have no 80-year-old commercial pilots flying for American or Southwest, no matter how competent they are. If I saw some 80-year-old pilot with a walker hobbling into the captain's deal, and they're not a guest, they're a pilot, they got little pilot wings on, and they're about to sit and grab that stick, that plane, I'm grabbing my shit and I'm demanding they get my stuff in the cargo hold out too, because I don't want to see an 80-year-old Tom Cruise flying a goddamn plane saying days of thunder, yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker, if you're not first, you're last. Flying no fucking plane. I don't care. I mean, Tom Cruise is in his 60s doing action film. And that that motherfucker, I don't care if he does his own stunts, which I don't believe it's 60s. In his 60s,
I don't think he does. Yeah.
I think it's a lot of hubris. But the fact
they got a little person doing his stunts.
Yeah. But anyway, I don't want. There's just like, and I'm not trying to be ageist.
Yeah.
But RBG should have done the right thing and stepped down about midterm.
Yep.
Yeah. Everybody's telling her, girl, you don't need to cut it too close.
Yeah.
And then we're Mr. Burns and her and super gluing her together.
Yeah.
But still didn't make it to the end of Trump's term.
Yeah.
Even though we knew we could beat him.
Yeah.
She dies right before. They just, like the express lane in a supermarket, they slide that crazy bitch in and go, well, we'll get her nominated. So they nominated themselves so fast that half of them got COVID, including Trump. That's how fast, in the middle of a goddamn pandemic. The Scalia dies almost a year before Obama's term. Last term is up. It's the last year of Obama. You can't see that through. They fucking shit out the process.
Yeah.
Super express lane. That crazy, I can't remember her name. I'll just call her fascist judge number 19. And they just shoot her through the system in days.
Yeah.
Like, one moment she's getting nominated, the next moment she's a Supreme Court. How did that happen? Like some kind of fascist magic. But anyway, we've gone way over time. And it's been a great show, and we went completely off the rails. They weren't that good anyway. And we'll talk more about this probably on the next show. But anyway, y'all have a great week, and thanks for watching. Be safe out there if you're in a hurricane-affected state.
Yes. Babu.
Babu.
Thank you for watching.
Hey, y'all, thanks for watching. I think we had a great show this week. We got on some interesting rabbit holes. And y'all be safe out there, and happy September.
Yes, happy September. Babu.